All right, so let me ask you a question before we jump into today's video. How can it be that two agents in the very same market talking to the exact same people can have such vastly different results when it comes to outbound prospecting? I mean, what's the difference? And so you've probably been in a situation, if you're here watching this video, where you've attempted to implement an outbound prospecting methodology with inside of your real estate business, and you've attempted to make outbound cold calls. And maybe there's been times where you felt like you're just spinning your wheels. Like, dude, I'm making the calls and just nothing really is happening. I want to explain to you what's happening inside of, or what the issue is inside of this video. And when you're done watching it, you can absolutely turn things around immediately. Because there's one thing that I'm seeing agents, a massive mistake that agents are making that's causing them to feel as though they're spinning their wheels. Not just feel that way, but they are just spinning their wheels, and they're not getting the results that other agents are getting. All right. So let's jump into it. I'll tell you exactly why. So there's something called first contact versus pipeline methodology. All right. So what's happening here is the vast majority of agents that are not getting results via an outbound prospecting lead generation methodology, it's because now some of the things I'll say in this video, you might think is common sense, but it is not common practice. And you might even be doing this yourself. And that is just focusing on first contacts only, meaning you're trying to go from the first conversation with a prospect over the telephone to setting a listing appointment. And that's where the vast majority of your efforts are spent. You make the calls, you're looking for appointments. You make the calls, you're looking for appointments. Now, theoretically, there's nothing wrong with that approach. In fact, when I coach an agent, I absolutely want them to focus on setting appointments via their outbound prospecting efforts. That's not the issue. We're going to get into what's happening and why they're not actually setting appointments and why they burn out and why they ultimately start to quit this methodology. So what ends up happening is they lose out on massive opportunities because what they're not doing is they're not building a pipeline. Now, again, you might say, yeah, I get that. I don't understand why that's such a big deal. Well, in practical application, I'll tell you exactly what's happening. All right. So real estate agent A, who is just making outbound dials and having, let's just call it 20 or 30 conversations a day that are people that they've only talked to one time, that conversion is extremely different than some agent B, we'll call it, who also has 20 to 30 conversations a day. But those conversations are with people that are in their pipeline. I want to show you how that plays out over time. All right, so check this out. So first off, a couple of baseline conversions that you need to have as we get deeper into this video. All right, this is the context that you need that matters. So 100 contacts equals 1 appointment set in the first contact method. So that's a 1% conversion, meaning that if you're one of these agents, it takes you on average about 100 conversations for you to find one person who says, sure, I'll give you the opportunity. Sure, I will set up time to meet with you and interview you to help list my house. That's what the average conversion looks like. Okay, well, that compared to what? Versus the pipeline methodology, it only takes 40 contacts to set one appointment in the pipeline methodology because of something called pipeline maturity. This is a 150% increase. The question you have to be asking yourself in this video is, how can that be? Why is that so? And that's what I want to show you. So once you set an appointment with inside of the first contact methodology, here's what I see to be the averages. Once the appointment is set, we see a 50% set to met, meaning for every 2 appointments you set using the first appointment contact method, there's you go on actually one of those appointments. We see a 50% listing appointment met to listing taken ratio. So again, 2 listing appointments, you come out with 1 listing. We see a 50% listings taken to listings sold ratio. 2 listings taken, 1 sale. And we'll just say, for the sake of this conversation, that 1 sale equals $7,500 in commission. Now, why are these the conversions? Well, there's a lot of skill sets that are I'll put aside for just a second, although that is probably the one of the biggest issues. But in the first contact methodology, mainly what's happening is based on lead source. And you see, most of the agents that go to direct outbound prospecting have a massive need for instant gratification. So what do? They run to for sale by owners and expired listings, which are 2 of the hardest lead sources to convert. And it's very difficult to even build a pipeline with that type of business because of the urgency required to convert in a very short amount of time. So that's fine. There's a time and place for that. But the conversions are much lower than what I would call a pipeline business. A pipeline business is a business where most of the contact distribution, if we're making 20, 30 contacts, we're having conversations with lead sources of people that are further up the funnel. And so a lot of agents, they don't get this in the beginning, but what I'm about to show you, it'll be like you seeing for the first time. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about absentee owners, downsizers, circle prospecting, bullseye prospecting, just listen and just sold calls. Now, most of you are saying, yeah, but Brandon, the problem with that is most of those people aren't looking to do anything for a long period of time. I understand. I get it. It's the chicken or the egg. So I'm going to show you how this manifests over a long period of time. All right. So here's what happens. So let's look at Agent A. Agent A is like what I see most. How I see most agents. It's like 90% of the agents in our business right now. They're very, very strapped for cash. They're like on the verge of like going broke, and they need money right now. So they have to get in this method of like, dude, I need a listing like today. Like I can't wait I can't wait. I need something now. And let's just say that their first goal is 25 sales and the goal is to make $187,000 a year. Okay, perfect. Let's look at what would be required on a first contact methodology. So in order to get 25 sales, remember, it's a 50% conversion from listing taken to close sale, which would mean this agent would need to take 50 listings. In order to take 50 listings on this method, this agent would have to go on about 100 listing appointments. It's a 50% close ratio. In order to go on 100 listing appointments, they'd have to set 200 because of a 50% cancellation rate. What does that mean? Well, there's a 10% contact to lead. We just said it's 100 contacts to set 1 listing appointment. Remember on this method? Because you have no pipeline that's maturing, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. So everything you get is just from talking to somebody one time. So it takes you 100 of those to get somebody to say, yes, I'll meet with you. So if you need to set 200 listing appointments under this model, what does that mean? Well, that means, my friend, that agent's going to need 20,000 contacts in 12 months or 1,600 per month, 80 per day, which would take that agent 11 hours of prospecting per day to accomplish the goal. Now, let's be honest. There is probably next to 0 agents that are going to prospect 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, 20 times per month, 240 days per year. I mean, let's just be honest, right? So the viability of this theory doesn't really play in the real world. So let's just look at Agent B, who deploys what we call a pipeline method and has the exact same goal. All right, so let's just look at this. So this agent, 25 sales means they need 33 listings because the type of listing they're taking has a higher pull-through rate. Okay, so I'll make another video about this, but if mainly you're just going after expired listings, well, you're getting like the crumbs of the market most of the time. And what I mean by that specifically is you're dealing with a lot of perhaps unmotivated sellers with properties that are in not the best condition, which is why they didn't sell in the first place. Now, yes, there's a massive opportunity. I'm not saying expireds are bad. It's a major part of the business model, but it's different when you're listing properties outside of that sector, outside of for sale by owner and expired land. Okay, so in order to get 33 listings on this model, you only need to meet with 44 people. Well, why is that the case, Brandon? Because what happens is when you build a pipeline business, when you're generating a lead, and we'll talk about conversion and timelines in just a second, but that converts to a listing appointment in 4.5 months from today. The 4.5 months of lead follow-up is where the majority of the business is being won. That's one of the major reasons or the major upsides of this. Same thing with the closing ratio. In order to go on 44 appointments met, we only need 58 appointments set. And your closing ratio is a lot higher. So in order to get these 58 appointments set, you need 580 leads, which is a 10% contact to lead generated ratio. My friends, let me just highlight this because this is such a huge, massive difference in this video. You see, before, we weren't generating any leads. You would prospect for 2 hours, and whatever you got from that 2 hours was what you got for the day. And every day you got to wake up and do it all over again. You're trading time for dollars. You weren't generating anything for the future. Agent B, as he or she is prospecting, certainly they're looking for now appointments. But on the way, when they're having their 20 or 30 conversations, they're actually generating a lead because they're playing the long game. And again, we've had many conversations in these videos lately what a qualified lead is and what it is not. But 58 appointments set, we need 580 leads. In order to do that, we don't need 20,000 conversations, my friend. We only need 5,800 versus the 20,000. So I'm having conversations with people that, yes, may not want a sign in their front yard today, but I know that 1 out of 10 of these conversations will turn into a high quality lead that will convert over time. A high quality lead for review, again, is somebody who has clear motivation to sell. They've got specific reasons. They've got timelines. They have clear, specific, tangible why they want to sell. That's number one. Number two, they don't have a real estate agent. You've asked them. They said, nope, I don't have an agent. We would be willing to meet with you when the day comes. They ask you to follow up with them. They give you a specific time frame on when they want that to occur. In other words, they're driving the next steps. It isn't you forcing the issue. All right, I'll follow up with you. I'll stay in touch with you. No. It's them inviting you. And then number 5, they give you a valid email address. So we need 580 of those. And in order to do that, we only need 5,800 conversations over the course of a year. So that's 480 conversations a month versus 1,600. 25 a day versus 80 a day. 3.5 hours of prospecting versus 11 a day. Now, we've talked about one major reason why this is the case. And again, it's because when we're having conversations over the phone, as we're prospecting every day, one agent has this all or nothing mindset. They say, if I don't get an appointment on this prospecting session, I get nothing. Where agent B says, well, I'm going to fight for appointments, certainly. But as I'm prospecting, it is a lead generation activity. So therefore, my second highest priority is to generate what? A lead that goes into the pipeline that I will follow up with over time, that will convert over time, because time goes by no matter what. And you'll see how that manifests in just a second and what that actually means. So why is the second reason that this happens? Well, I told you I'd tell you about pipeline maturity. Here's what's going on with inside of these databases of agents that produce at a massive level versus the agents that seem to just stay at the same production year over year over year over year. And they just stay on the hamster wheel. It's because leads convert on average at a 25% clip over 9 months on average. Or I'm sorry, that should be over a 12-month average. What I mean by 12 months is that inside of 12 months, the leads that you have in your database could convert at any time. They could convert at any point in time. They could convert in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. But within inside of 12 months, we see an average of a 25% lead to appointment set conversion. That means this. That means for every 100 leads you have in your pipeline, okay? 100 leads in your pipeline means you did the work in the past that you get to benefit from in the future, okay? That equals 25 possible appointments. We divide that by 12 months, means that there are 2 possible appointments set per month available in your pipeline for every 100 leads you generate. Okay, cool. What does that mean? What does that look like? So let's look at an agent in their second year. Remember, this agent's been doing 25, 30 contacts a day. They don't work any harder. They're not doing more prospecting to sell more houses. They don't have to do that because they've been getting 3 leads per day. We'll do the math. That's about 720 humans that they've generated that go into the pipeline that will convert over the next 12 months. So what happens? In their second year of doing this, okay, we told you what they would have to do in their first year. Here's what it looks like in their second year. This agent starts inside of the pipeline with 720 leads that they generated from their first year of prospecting. Although their first year of prospecting, they did already sell 25 houses. I showed you exactly how they did that. But in their second year, they don't start at zero. They don't start at zero. Like the first agent. The first agent starts at zero. They have no pipeline. They have no leads in their pipeline. They have no leads in their database. They're just making first contacts. Call one person, look for an appointment. If I don't get the appointment, I get nothing. Agent B did something completely different. She generated 720 leads in the pipeline. Well, what does that mean? That means that there's a total of 180 appointments possible within inside of the database from the start of the year. So when we look at that conversion and we extrapolate that out, in any given month, there are 15 possible appointments. There's 10 listing appointments to go on, 7 listings to be had, and 5 sales per month in a pipeline business. And in this agent's second year, their total possible opportunity is $37,000 of income per month because they have the database, let alone what happens in year 3, 4, and 5. This is how you see an agent that does 30 contacts a day, compounded year over year, month over month, day over day. You could see them go from 20 deals to 50 deals to 80 deals to 120 deals. That's how it's happening. They're not adding these huge number of people on their teams. They're not buying more leads. They're not working 5 times as hard. It's this pipeline maturity or the compound effect of these leads inside of the pipeline that are simply converting over time versus the first contact agent who feels stuck. This agent only gets what they get from first contacts. There's no compounding pipeline. It's like I said before, they're trading time for money. And if they put in their 3 hours a day on average, they get their 20 contacts. That equals 100 contacts per week, which the most they can get on this conversion, certainly they can get better over time, is 1 appointment set per week, 4 per month, right? They set 2. They're still stuck at their 1 or 2 deals per month. And they can't get out of it. And they don't understand why. And that's because they're constantly starting over at zero. They're not building anything. They have no pipeline or compounding interest on their prospecting efforts. They're just dialing for dollars day after day. Of course, they're burnt out. Of course, they don't want to prospect. Of course, they're not excited to pick up the phone because every day they've got to get their face kicked in and make all these calls all over again. And so when they make 30 contacts a day, it's all brand new people, the hardest conversations to have in real estate, the most amount of rejection, the most painful conversations, where Agent B, who has 30 conversations a day, is having 30 conversations a day with people that they have already generated an opportunity with, where all of those people who have asked them to follow up with them. And so that's why the conversions are so different. That's why the closing ratios are so different. That's why the pull-through rates are so different. If you can just be patient for 1 year and build an actual pipeline, You don't have to say no to the now business, but as you're building the now business, you're also building a pipeline for your second year. You can reap the reward of what we're talking about. You can wake up in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 with a massive pipeline that you've built, doing the work every single day, that you get to reap the reward. This is how you will double, triple, quadruple your business, my friends.